I'm Matthew Vasquez.
I'm Jason Vasquez.
And we're the team captains of the BattleBot Whiplash. Whiplash is a 250-pound heavyweight combat robot that we compete with on the TV show BattleBots. BattleBots is where engineers, makers, creators from all over the world gather at this event for 2 weeks to find out who the best combat robot builder in the world is.
And BattleBots competitions consist of one-on-one fights between these robots that are remote controlled in a battle to the death for 3 minutes.
First shot fired by Whiplash and making a second. Now he's going to take him in the rail. Oh! And look at this. Black Dragon is now inverted. That is a bad spot to be in.
It's a lot of very talented engineers trying to do something relatively simple very, very well. So it doesn't matter like how complicated a combat robot is. The competition is still extremely tough and extremely hard. You know, it's not just who's the best engineer wins. It's not just who's most experienced or who has the most money or has the most team members. It's, you know, there's driving involved. There's just like general strategy and knowledge of, you know, what works and what doesn't in combat robotics.
GoEngineer has been our longest time sponsor, and we've been using the skills we've learned from them throughout our whole careers, both in BattleBots and in our jobs. And it's really just put us one step ahead of the game.
A lot of the way, like, you guys got our foot into the door of becoming, you know, a real successful BattleBots team. And not only that, like, we did the SolidWorks, you know, kids camps and got our SolidWorks certifications. CAD is like, it's really a hugely important skill. Like, we couldn't have really any of this if we didn't have those skills. We couldn't manufacture any parts, we couldn't print any parts, we couldn't waterjet, CNC anything. It's a hugely valuable skill that GoEngineer helped us develop. In like the early 2000s, around the time Jason was born, our dad saw BattleBots on TV, and he wasn't even like an engineer or anything. He was just like a tinkerer, liked working with RC stuff, and he was like, I want to do this. So he tried to build a robot, went and competed a few years later, had a lot of fun. You know, us being little kids when he started, we saw it and we like absolutely loved it. And yeah, the obsession kind of hasn't gone away since then. When we first got accepted to the first season of BattleBots in 2015, we were alternates, so we only got one fight, which is just like an exhibition fight. After that fight, we were kind of like, maybe it was a good thing we were alternates, because we just had lots of things go wrong. Like, every system in the robot had some problem by the end of the fight. We came back the next season, we got accepted as a full competitor. We lost our first fight. It was better than the year before, but there were still definitely big problems. It didn't come till the following season of BattleBots. We like really kind of carefully looked at why didn't we do well last season. It only took a couple important changes to make a world of difference. We went from going, you know, 0-1 in the, you know, in season 2 to making to the semifinals in season 3.
Whiplash, what a job! It's now 2-0.
I guess it just kind of goes to show, don't give up on what you're doing, even if it didn't work out right the first time. You might not have to change as much as you think to, you know, to turn something into a success.
Yeah, and it's just really important to continually evolve, whether it be your design or your outlook on something, just to know that it's going to take time to revise it, to get it to where you want it to be.
So Whiplash is probably one of the most versatile robots on BattleBots. We are a vertical spinner and a lifter. So if we want to, when we're underneath our opponent, we can lift the arm, flip him over, put him in vulnerable positions where we can really take advantage of him. And another cool feature about the robot is if a robot gets behind us, we can spin up our weapon, bring it over the back of the robot and hit him over the top. And we try to keep the front edges of the robot as sharp as possible, because a lot of it comes down to who gets under the opponent first.
Yeah, and the blade isn't like a typical saw blade where its only goal is to cut through the opponent. It only has 2 teeth, so hopefully it'll cut in a little bit, catch onto you, and launch the opponent into the air. And then they'll also get damaged when they fall back onto the ground. And then we have this sloped steel armor in the front to just help us get under our opponents, deflect their weapons, and also just get under them to attack from beneath. And this whole robot is 4-wheel drive with these beefy wheels that get the robot driving around real good.
On competition day, you know, before we're about to fight, you know, you spend months and months and thousands of dollars building this thing. You know, you put so much time and work into it. You're putting it in an arena with something else that is built specifically to destroy this thing that you spent all this time working on. So yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking at times, but I think we've gotten pretty good at handling the stress, I would say.
Yeah, and it's just really important to take one fight at a time because there's no point in thinking about the fight after when you haven't made it through the first. And we really try and just keep ourselves calm and not take it too seriously in a sense, just kind of like keep it lighthearted because in the end, that's gonna help you if you could keep a level head.
There are definitely lots of highs and also lots of lows. Like this last season, it was kind of worst case scenario. Like not just our first fight, our first 2 fights, we got destroyed. When you take a lot of damage, it can be very, very tough getting the robot put back together. And at that point, you're just hoping it doesn't happen again. And you know, there were several fights where we were just on our back foot, constantly repairing, barely being able to get into the next fight. There's a lot of, really endurance that comes into play at BattleBots. Mentally, it's pretty hard when that happens too, because like, one, you're bummed you didn't win your fight. Not only you didn't win, you got totally demolished. So there's the mental aspect of getting back in the zone that like, all right, we need to get the robot put back together. We could still win this competition. And also like physically, it's pretty exhausting, to do all those repairs you need to do.
This last season, really all of our problems just rooted in that the competition's evolving around us. We're evolving our own team, but so is everybody else. We did just upgrade to all brushless components this year for the first time and add a lot of troubleshooting. Everybody else has done that too at this point. So they're hitting us a lot harder and we're troubleshooting our own issues and just, it's getting a lot more destructive as time goes on. And it's something we're gonna have to work around and just figure out.
So for the revision process in BattleBots, like I think the first step is, when you lose in a season of BattleBots or you lose to a couple opponents, first you go like, why did I lose that fight? What happened? Was it something we did wrong on the robot that failed? Did they have a better design and just take advantage of our robot? But yeah, I think the first step is just figuring out why you lost the previous season, thinking about what you want to do to address that. But if you really want to up your game, you kind of have to, think outside of the box and like really guess like what will give me the competitive advantage. Not only fixing the things that didn't work, but trying to think of new ways to be more competitive, things that haven't happened yet, trying to predict like what can go wrong in the future that hasn't gone wrong before.
Just really important to try and stay ahead of the curve. And I think it's also really important to keep your same just general basic structure the whole time throughout, because then you could continually evolve from that base and just not be changing too much at once, for instance, and then getting lost. You just got to make sure that your base is there and it's strong and it's gonna survive.
Yeah, so in BattleBots, there are definitely a lot of life lessons to be learned. I think, in my opinion, like the most important and maybe most relevant is there are lots of amazing highs and lots of really low lows. I mean, because you build this thing, you put so much work into, you put months of your life, really years of your life into, thousands and thousands of dollars into. It's not just our money, it's sponsors' money, friends' money. We have so many people supporting us. And like, when you do bad, it really sucks. When things don't go well, it's, a really big bummer. So I think it's just kind of learning to manage that and not letting it affect you too much, stay level-headed. Generally when things aren't going well, just not giving up on it. And knowing that maybe you're just a few improvements away from having, an awesome season and doing something really cool.
Yeah, and it's also just been great that we've been doing this since we've been so young and we've totally grown up to the level that our heroes were at when we were young, and we're pretty much what we wanted to be when we set out when we were little kids. So it's just been really cool to see that come to fruition, and it's totally given us the sort of confidence in other parts of our lives and just knowing that anything is possible. And it's been really, really good for us. Yeah,
so if you're trying to build something new, create something new, have any new endeavor, I think really the most important thing is, one, it's something you enjoy and are passionate about. It's really something you just have fun with. If you get really good at doing something you love, then you're gonna have this awesome skill and you'll really enjoy your life and enjoy what you're doing.
It's also just really important to be in it for the long haul, because there are gonna be rough patches, but just knowing that there's gonna be those high highs is just an amazing experience, and it's just good to continually just persist after it and just keep going.
The results from the judges are in.